Light me up, don't you stop, 'cause tonight it's on the line. Show me how you get on down. Close my eyes, take me for a ride. Got to be you. So come and light me up. I still need your fire.
Hello and welcome to the next event debrief vlog. Very quick concession, is that the right word? After Pontypool, obviously competing 2 weekends on the trot. And actually you are going to join me. So usually we do sort of a packing video, like when we're doing the eventing vlogs. But today we got back quite late last night, but I just chucked everything in here and now I need to go through and sort it all on my lunch break. So it's going to be a bit of an unpacking whilst obviously discussing with you guys how I felt the day went yesterday. So we headed to Bricky. Now, for anyone who knows, it is in Dorset, which, bear with, from us in Cornwall is quite a long way away. It takes us about 3.5, 4 hours to get there. We decided to leave. Thankfully, we had quite late times. We weren't on until 20 past 12 was my dressage. So we had plenty of time. It wasn't as early start as Pontypool. So we left at about 6, half 6. And that gave us plenty of time to get up there, walk the course, and then obviously get on for the dressage. Speaking of dressage, obviously first phase, let's start with that. I am going to put my phone down whilst I'm unpacking and talk you through it. Now, what I have failed to mention is yesterday was actually a regional final, but I'll be honest, I was not treating it like that. I was just treating it as a normal standard BE90. Wasn't being too fixed on what the outcome was going to be. I just wanted to make sure that I rode each of the 3 phases to the best of my ability, give Lola the best chance to have no excuses of not wanting to jump or misbehaving in the dressage or anything like that. So I was literally just focusing on each phase as they came, and whatever the outcome was, I would be happy to know that I had given it my all. After our competition at Coleraine last weekend, I wanted to trial not wearing spurs just because it's coat changing season. She's obviously been clipped. I think she's just a little bit more sensitive. I did feel that possibly spurs she was just being a bit oversensitive, so I thought let's try without it. I warmed up with a schooling whip just to make sure that she still wasn't completely dead to my leg, which I do think helped. But I've got to admit, as much as I was pleased with our test, of course I will do a full voiceover with the points. We had to do a 20 by 60 test actually, which, do you know how long that centre line at the beginning feels? You feel like you are trotting towards that judge forever. It used to be even worse on Spritey, to be honest with you. However, I wasn't too disheartened when I came out with dressage. I actually thought that she was very, very good. She was accurate to the markers. I do think we could have had maybe just a little bit more spring expression in our step, which is something that I often say, and I think perhaps spurs may have just given me that. But on the whole, it was very good. I think we may have overboiled a little bit in our warm-up. I wanted to literally only do about 8 to 10 minutes warm up, but they were unfortunately running 5 minutes late. I don't think my test was actually at 20 past 12. I don't think I went in until 26 minutes past. So yeah, 5-6 minutes we were running behind, and that just maybe made it go over the boil to what I was hoping to have done. But you can't foresee those things, that you can't change them. You have to deal with them at the time and not fret or overthink it. Never mind. All a learning curve and all an experience. As I said, next time I will be wearing spurs again, and yeah, we will see how we get on there. So it's still a work in progress is how I would say with the dressage, but I will let you listen to the marks of the judge. Actually, it was quite a consistent test actually, but of course we will be doing more homework on that before our next event. The first thing I would say is apologies that we're quite far away from this, so it's not the best filming, but we entered down the centre line, the very long centre line. Unfortunately, Lola just goes on to 3 tracks, not quite keeping straight, so we scored a 6. Turning left and then heading to the S marker for a 15-metre circle, which I actually think she went really nicely. I'm not going to fault her on anything of that. I think she had a nice bend. She was willing. She was happy. I think the size and the shape of the circle's good. And we scored a 7. Then it's straight away from the S marker, short diagonal to P, and you have to do a walk transition over X, 4 to 5 strides, and then proceed and trot. Again, we scored a 7. And the only thing, there's something that we're working on, but she's just not quite quick enough to get down to the walk and be through to the walk, not like forward going into the walk, if that makes sense. We almost have like a couple of strides of jog. Then again, exactly the same on the other rein. So another 15-metre circle. And the judge just said that we needed a little bit more activity on this rein. But again, I think the size of the circle's good. You can see that I'm kicking quite a lot. And then again, another walk transition over the centre line. More fluency to walk, but obedient up, which I can't complain. And we scored another 6.5 for that. Then it's into the walk. You walk quite early in this test before any canter. And you have to walk right in front of the judge. As I've said in many tests before, walk is not probably our best gait. So doing it right in front of the judge, you really can't hide anything. But we scored a 6.5 with a comment from the judge saying pole a little low. Now the walk that Lola does do well is this free walk on a long rein. And yeah, as you can see, she's stretching down nice. She's got a nice swing, lovely big over track, but unfortunately hollowed a little bit on pickup. So the judge marked us again another 6.5. Then straight into trot in that first corner and picking up canter on the left, which they are all marked together, and we scored a 7. Then on to the marker E for a 20-metre circle. And we've got to do a give and retake, which is coming up over crossing the centre line for the second time. There we are. And the judges put fair give and retake, but needs more uniform bend. And I would totally and utterly agree with that. Then down to the next marker at V and doing a half 15-metre circle, coming then back across the diagonal, which is always quite a difficult move, I think, to make sure that they keep balance, and then back to trot just before the marker. The judge said that we were tending to be on our forehand and scored us a 6.5. Then in the second corner, we're picking up canter right, which we went up a little bit and got a 7. And then onto a 20-metre circle at B, doing exactly the same as we did on the other rein. So on the second time of crossing the centre line, we will do a give and retake. And no comments from the judge, and scored us a 7. So clearly our right rein is better than our left. And then another half 15-metre circle like we did on the other rein, and coming back across the diagonal. We had exactly the same comments from the judge, just tending to be on the forehand and scoring us a 6.5. But I do think both her transitions down to trot aren't horrendous as I have seen her do previously. We have been working very hard on that in training, so it's nice to see that they are getting there, they are improving. We've then got to come around to the S marker, onto the centre line, and halt and salute at G. We didn't quite have a square halt and scored a 6.5. The judge's comments at the end was attractive horse that is calm and willing, needs more swing over back as canter becoming rather downhill at times, which I do agree with, and we are working hard on that in our training. But again, another very pleasing test. So as I said, quite a consistent test. I cannot complain for a 20/60 test as well, which I always think is a little bit different, a little bit harder to ride. We scored a 33.3, which yes is higher than what we've scored in our last 2 events, but that needs to go home to wash. I'm not complaining, not at all. I think the winner dressage score was 28, so in a regional final where it is a little bit of a tougher competition, I'm really pleased with that, and I'm not too disheartened. As I said, I think we just needed to have a little bit more impulsion, and we will continue to work hard on our dressage. They don't need to be washed. Moving on to show jumping. Now, I'm a little bit annoyed at myself for this, about the show jumping round. It is entirely my own fault. I did not switch on my game in the warm-up enough. I don't know why, but it was actually Chris that sort of pointed it out to me. I need to have that switch where I'm like, right, I'm riding, come on Lola, we've got this. And I needed to have it quicker. Thankfully, I did bring it back for the actual round, but in the warm-up, we again did one of those stops, which is never nice before you're about to go in and do your round. As I said about Pontispool, it sort of just unnerves you. You try to not let it as much as you can, but it maybe just gave me that little bit of a slap that I needed to go, no, Emily, you need to wake up, you need to ride Lola, you need to ride her and tell her that you're riding her and that we're jumping. So we jumped a few more times after Chris giving me a few stern words. So thankful to him coming along and telling me, because yeah, he's brilliant. He is absolutely brilliant. And apparently he was on the sideline going, no, 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 as I was coming into that jump. So as much as he might not be horsey, he sort of can read situations really well. And yeah, as I said, I'm so thankful for him coming along and giving me the support. So we had the stop, as I said, we jumped a few more fences, I was more on it, and then we had a little bit of time, a few minutes for the one that was jumping before us, just to sort of walk around. Chris was asking, you all right, you got it all together? He's like, calm now, you're riding, you know what you're doing. And I was like, yeah, I'm all good, I've got it, it's all fine. And we went into the round. Went into the show jumping, I was feeling much more confident, I was riding her, I felt like she was responding to me. And anyway, I don't know why I'm going to speak on, because you will now obviously watch the show jumping round. Like I did at Pontispool, I wanted to do a little bit of a tighter turn into fence one, just to make sure that Lola was back on her hocks and underneath me and listening to me. Admittedly, I did not get the best stride to the first fence, not probably how you want to start a round, but that is what happened. But thankfully, we got the striding right into fence 2. Now, this is quite an important turn here, because I really needed to make sure, again, Lola was on her hocks. It's on a downhill and another related distance with planks at the beginning, but thankfully she picked up over those. Then I think we just went a little bit, we let the downhill take us with a bit of momentum, which unfortunately took that pole with us. Then turning left, and again, another related distance. There were quite a lot of those in this course. Then a dog leg to some ducks, which we got a little bit close, but she managed to pick up. Then went a little disunited, so just sorted her out, because this was actually the biggest upright on the course. But we got over that one, and then another related distance over that spread, which she jumped nicely, and then ending the course on a short one-strided double. But thankfully picked up, and we didn't get any more poles down. I've got to admit, I was quite frustrated at myself and annoyed at myself for allowing me to not be switched on in the warm-up, which then obviously resulted in possibly not the best round that I know that we are capable of. And I cannot fault Lola, because, as I said, it was my fault. So lesson again learned. There's always things to learn from the negatives. But the big positive is that we had no stops in the arena. She didn't even look to stop in the arena. We jumped all the fences and we only had the one down. One pole is very good, and actually one pole can happen to anyone at any time really. They can easily come down, can't they, the show jumps? But we got around and then it was time to gear myself up, get in the zone, ready for cross country. Off to get the ponies in now. Everything is packed away and organised. Stuff that I need to take home and washed is in the car. And it's time to bring the ponies in for their afternoon snooze. And it's time to go on to what is my highlight of yesterday, the cross country, which really does make a difference, and what a contrast a week makes. We did do a lot of training during the week. Dressage lesson, cross country schooling. We went schooling on Friday, ran through the test a bit, the elements of the test, and popped a show jump or two. And I'm really pleased to say that it did all pay off. Miss Lola was on it. No, I was on it. I had fire in my belly. As well as the training, I also had a brilliant mindset session from Nikki from Be Your Best Yet. I've mentioned her many a times before. And we had a really good session on Friday lunchtime, which I felt got me so in the zone, in the positive mindset that I needed to be. The cross country, which I have to admit is probably the thing that out of the whole day was what I was most worried about, but was trying so desperately hard to not tell myself that. Trying to keep myself that mindset. No, we're going to be fine. We are going to go around. We will do it. Not we can, or I don't like this. It was, we are going to jump this. It was a very long course. Bricky is renowned for going to the max of everything. It will have the maximum number of jumping efforts, the maximum length of the course. The optimum time was 6 minutes 10, which is quite a long way around with an absolute killer hill at the end. I thought I would finish this off with you as well and talk through our cross-country round from yesterday, yeah? Yes. You're Richie, aren't you? Yes. And I'm not going to lie, I have just stood on a stool because I was really low down. So the cross-country, as I said, fire in my belly, which definitely resulted and came through to you. And I have got to admit, I really spoke to Lola pretty much the whole way around, just talking about where we were going, making sure that she knew that we were going over those fences, and praising her at the end of good girl. And yeah, I was pretty vocal, wasn't I? Out from the start box, you really had to go quite to the right hand side for fence 1. Thankfully, she was keen out the start box, didn't really hesitate on the first one. She can be ever so slightly sticky sometimes, but she didn't. My leg was on, we were going, and we did go pretty quick out the start box. I wanted to make sure that she knew that I meant business. We were on it, we were going. And your first sort of stretch was fence 1, 2, 3. Then fence 4 was probably one of the little bit more of a questionable. Thankfully, Chris has got me going over that one, although I do zoom past him quite quickly. But it was next to a tree, a bit of light to dark. There were fences just before going through, which thankfully she didn't really look at. She was just on it. She knew the fence, locked on and jumped it well. And then came down to 5 and 6, which could have been an A and B combination, but it was quite a big jump in on the first bit. It was quite a hefty log, and then 5 strides on a bit of a dog leg to fence 6. She really jumped that well. I did give her a bit of vocal encouragement and said, come on Lola, we're going. But she jumped it, as I said, well. And the right hand turn just literally turned her shoulders and she went over fence 6 nicely, didn't you? Fence 6 thankfully was a bit smaller after having such a big jump in. Hello, what are you doing? And then you went sort of a bit of a downhill, little bit of a gradient down to fence 7, which had a bit of a ditch, like a very shallow ditch in front of it. But I was keen to make sure that I kept her head up, that she focused on that we were jumping the jump and not looking down at that. We jumped it. Not probably the best of jumps over it. I don't think that was the best of strides, but we got over it. As I've said before, you don't get any points for style on cross country. Then fence 8 was a bit of a skinny, narrow, wood roll toppy kind of thing. Very good description there, as you can probably tell. The photo will be there, so you can look at that. Again, she jumped that really well. And then you've got quite a bit of a uphill climb before we came to 2 jumps on 2 mounds. So you had to jump up the mound, over, down the mound, then up another one very quick. I think there was only 1 stride in that bottom of the mound, then up again and over the second one. And of course, following on from Pontypool, you've gone camera shy, hiding behind me. And of course, after Pontypool and our stop on the mound, hi, I was telling myself we were going to go over it, but I had to really think hard and visualize myself going over those fences successfully quite a few times before heading out in that cross country. That was one that was probably one of my most worried, only because of what had happened before. But I rode it nice, positive. Chris has got me a fantastic video over that, and I'm going to have to leave the sound on because, as I said, I was vocal. So I will let you enjoy that now. Lola's just turned her bottom because she's got an itchy bottom. That's rude, you know. As you see, we were a bit vocal. We got over them and then a big praise of good girl afterwards. Then we had another log before entering some water. And we had to jump in the water twice. So we had to go in one with quite a sharp angle to the right to be able to get around to get into the water at 13. Which was absolutely fine. We came back to a trot for that, came through the first water, I picked up canter, and then she cantered straight through the next water and over 14 on the way out. Then we had a little bit of a stretch. Lola's now just leaning on me here. Then we had a little bit of a stretch, didn't we? No real hills. It was just quite flat, just sort of being able to just sort of cruise along towards 15, 16. So 15 was a brush fence and 16, your head's gone very heavy, and 16 was a corner. Again, could have been an A, B. There wasn't much room in between them. And again, she jumped that really, really nicely. I can't complain. Then it got onto another little bit of a tricky course for fence 17 and 18. Again, up onto another mound to jump fence 17. The mound at the top of it was a lot wider, so that made it a little bit easier. You had a couple of strides on there, over a log, down the mount. Then fence 18, and again, as I did with 9 and 10, I really had to visualize this before going out to think how many times. I think I probably visualized myself about 6 times going over that fence successfully, as Nikki taught me to do, because 18 was basically in a hedgerow, up a hill, and you had to jump from the hill. You didn't have any flat bit at the top, and you had to jump out, and they can't see until the very last minute of where they're going to land. It was thankfully not too big a log, but still, after last weekend, that was one that I was probably the most worried about. Thankfully, lots of vocal encouragement, lots of leg, and we went over it, didn't we, you superstar? You good girl. Very good girl. I was absolutely buzzing when we landed after that, and I think probably everybody around the event venue would have heard me say what a good girl she was. Then we had fence 19, again in the hedgerow with some trees under a bit of shade, and came at that one. She jumped that one lovely. Then it was a left-hand turn, and then this is where Chris thought he was going to be able to catch me going to fence 20, but unfortunately he was on the wrong side of the fence, bless him. He was running around that course, trying to get both Tina and I, but it got a nice little bit of us just cantering through, nice and steady, towards a double of logs for fence 20, one-strided, nice and simple. You jumped that actually very nicely. We had a very good stride and jumped that lovely. And then you had a very steep downhill, which we have gone down many a times, and I had gone a little bit quicker at the beginning. I wanted to be quite up on my markers because of it being a longer course. I thought tired legs, you don't want it to be going down that in quite a forward pace and trip or have any silliness or anything go wrong. So we came back to a very steady trot, trotted down, and then you have 2 strides at the almost at the bottom of flat jump fence 21. Then you had to go down again for fence 22. 22 was a very dodge stride, I have to admit. But you sorted us out there and took a bit of a flyer for me, didn't you? Yeah, you were very good. Helped mummy out. Oh, you've still got curly mane. Fence 23, again, another little log sort of pile. You jumped that one well. And then we had the last combination, which was a log before some water. Now, when we watched somebody go through this when we were walking the course, the water was quite deep. So I was determined to try and make her not go through it too quick. I didn't want her to sort of stumble or trip, again, with tired legs after a very long course. But you were bowling on quite well, wasn't you? Yeah. And you go up a very steep uphill. So like you've just come down the very steep downhill, you've now got to go up the hill for the last 2 fences. So after doing the steep incline, you then had another little log, which was fairly straightforward, and then on cantering towards the end. Now, I was a little bit concerned because I was quite up still. I'd allowed too much time to go down that steep hill, and unfortunately came through still under. So I could have been, so the optimum time was 6:10, so you could have been coming through the finish line 5:55 to 6:10, and we came through, and I thought it was about 5:50, but I was a little bit late starting my watch at the beginning, so actually we finished with 3 time faults, so 1.2, but I cannot complain. So we finished the day on 38.5, which I cannot complain about. Not at all. Such a big improvement from last weekend. Have a little Sprite to finish us off. But yeah, as I said, super pleased. Much of an improvement. The training that I did last week obviously clearly paid off. And now look forward to our last event of the season, which is going to be Bovington. But considering this year, it's been a very mixed, weird one for everybody with training, events, all of it, to be honest. Very thankful that we have been able to get out, and hopefully we will be able to do 4. But even if we were to finish it on 3 and finish it on yesterday's performance, I'm more than happy with that. So we will see. Hopefully it doesn't get rained off, as I know Bovington has in the past. But as I say, fingers firmly crossed that doesn't happen, and hopefully we'll get to enjoy at least one more event. But that's not until October. Actually, I'm going to go home and get it entered now. The ballot's tomorrow, so yeah. Let's go home and get that entered now. Hope again you guys have enjoyed another event debrief. There is a proper MT Adventures event vlog out that will be over on Tina's channel. I will pop the link in the description below, so do be sure to go check that out. And of course, whenever you're watching any of our vlogs, guys, do tag us in your stories. We love to see you guys enjoying them, and we try to reshare as many as we possibly can. Until next time, guys, take care, and I will see you all very soon. See you later.